Okay, so multiply fractions. You multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. Can't read the rest of that word, but you know what it says. Okay? Then simplify. Well, you know how to simplify, just the same way we do here. If you got this by multiplying two fractions, here's how it would simplify. So, to simplify, when you're doing polynomials, rational expressions with polynomials in the numerator and denominator, you're just going to factor everything you can and simplify. Okay? So very easy. Then dividing fractions. How do you divide fractions? You multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction, right? So you just turn it upside down, and then you're back to something like this, okay? It's not difficult. Whereas addition and subtraction is a little more challenging. We'll talk about that next week. Okay. So you got x squared plus 7x plus 6 over x plus 5 multiplied by x squared plus 4x minus 5 over x squared minus 36. And just to make this more fun, I'm going to make this into a minus here. Okay. Now, if this works out the way I think it did, I just made that up in my head, but I knew what I wanted to do. Okay. You can factor. Numerator here is x minus 6 times x minus 1. And now you've got an x plus 5 multiplied by x plus 5 times x minus 1 over x minus 6 quantity squared. So we're going to multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators. Well, there the numerators have been multiplied. Now the denominators. And x minus 6 squared, I'm going to write out as x minus 6 times x minus 6. There won't be any confusion with exponents and stuff. Although you need to be able to deal with that, I'm not going to bother with it. Okay? So now what do we do? Well, we see we have an x minus 6 here and an x minus 6 here. We can use this one or this. We can't use them both. Okay? We can write this as x minus 6 over x minus 6 times x plus 5 over x plus 5 times x minus 1 times x minus 1 over x minus 6. And let's check to make sure that what I've written here is the same as what I've written here. Well, let's see, if I multiply all this out, I'll have an x minus 6, I'll have an x plus 5, and I'll have a couple of x minus 1s. Okay? So my numerator checks out. If I multiply these three numerators, I get the same numerator I get here, okay? And if I multiply the denominators, I get an x minus 6, which is here, an x plus 5, and another x minus 6, okay? So every one of these terms appears in the denominator. Now that's extremely important. You gotta check and make sure that's the case. Okay, you don't just write down anything, you write down what's gonna work. And you write it down, you know it works if, when you multiply it all back out, it gives you what you started with. Well then, x minus 6 over x minus 6 is 1. X plus 5 over x plus 5 is 1. And we have this. And multiplying by 1 doesn't change anything, so we have x minus 1 times x minus 1 over x minus 6. Don't really need parentheses around the denominator, but I'll do it anyway. Okay? Now, there are a couple of ways I can write this. Okay, this is correct. But depending what form you want to get, you could write this as x minus 1 squared over x minus 6. And that would often be considered the preferred form. You don't want to keep having to write x minus 1. If you had x minus 1 to the 42nd power, you would certainly write it with an exponent, right? So, writing with positive exponents where possible, that's kind of what we want to do. Or we might expand this. We might want it in this form. For example, if we're going to construct the graph of this thing, and we'll talk a little bit about how that's done, we want to do a long division of this into this. Can't do a long division of this into this, okay? So sometimes we want this form. So right now I would say that these are both valid forms. This one's sort of valid. It's good to write this out to remind yourself what you've got. But this form and this form, this would be the expanded form, this is the factored form. Okay? So, got a factored form here and an expanded form. Here. That's a bad looking arrow, but that's right. Okay?
Okay.